We're now recording.
Welcome to the Hawaii Board of Psychology meeting for August. We're going to play a short video now to introduce and get everybody settled.
Welcome to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting. When the meeting begins momentarily, the chair will take a roll call, explain any specific rules for this particular board, and then move to public comment. The name of the board member will appear on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. For instance, this is board member Y, and this is board member E. Public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. You can indicate that you are ready to testify by clicking on the raise hand button being circled by the mouse on your screen now. At the appropriate time, the board will recognize you to speak and ask you to unmute your mic as shown here. Again, public testimony will be accepted at the beginning of the meeting and before each agenda item. Public attendees will not be able to unmute their microphone until recognized by the board. Public attendees who are recognized to testify will be asked to identify themselves by name and their affiliated organization if applicable. Please mute your microphone when you are finished speaking, as a courtesy to others and members of the board. Public attendees will not be able to unmute themselves after the testimony is completed unless recognized again after raising their hand. At some point during the meeting, the board may choose to move into executive session. When the board moves into executive session, the board members' microphones and video feeds will be turned off, and a similar screen as you see now will be displayed. When the board returns from executive session, their microphones will be turned on as well as their video cameras. Welcome again to the Professional and Vocational Licensing Virtual Board Meeting. At this time, the chair will call the meeting to order and take a roll call, as well as explain any additional rules that may be specific to this board.
All right, so welcome. It's meeting is called to order at 9:05 a.m. I'll start with roll call before. Yeah. Okay, so prior to that, it turns out I need to make sure we have quorum. So if you are present, please indicate you are so when your name is called. Dr. Stephen Takeda.
Present, and I'm alone.
Thank you. Thanks for noting that too. Dr. Sean Scanlon.
Present.
Dr. Sherry Takushi Isara.
Present.
And I, Vice Chair Dr. Stern, am present, which gives us quorum. So the meeting is, we do have quorum, and therefore I'm going to call the meeting to order at this time at 9:05 a.m. We're moving on to item 2, reviewing the meeting minutes. Is there anyone who wishes to provide testimony in regards to the meeting minutes? Hearing
No public testimony, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Hearing no testimony is requested, I will go ahead and ask if there are any substantive corrections to the minutes in review.
I'm looking at in the temporary permits section and second paragraph. I think the first sentence, it seems to imply that I said that the 90-day was similar to other states, and I don't think that was the case. So I don't know if that's.
I don't think it's just that. It said that you looked into a bunch and that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I think if we could delete that, it just implies that that part was the similar and our processes were similar, not that part. So
Okay, I can
delete that.
between the commas.
Got it.
Just take which allows for 90-day permits.
Okay.
Take that out, and then that our existing processes are similar to the other ones.
Okay.
Thank you.
So for the record, it now reads, and reported that Hawaii's existing process is similar to those in over 30 other states. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Are there any other Is there any other comments or concerns or questions related to the minutes from June 30th, 2026? I'll entertain a motion then to accept the minutes.
Motion.
Moved by Dr. Scanlon. Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Are there any, is any opposition to accepting the minutes? Hearing none, the minutes are approved. With the one change.
Oh, sorry.
I apologize.
Sorry, can you ask for affirmative vote instead of just asking if there's any
We're
opposed?
not gonna be, we should be asking for affirmative votes.
Or just like all in favor, just so it's clear that everyone voted in favor. It's a
Understood.
it's a motion and second, yeah.
All in favor? Any opposition or abstention? Okay, thank you.
It's a delay. Sorry, it's a formality, but I think.
No, thank you. This is my first time involved, so I appreciate the information. Wow, that was pretty good. That takes us to item 3 on the agenda, which is provisional licensure and associate psychology. Provisional licensure associate psychologist. Is there anyone wishing to provide testimony on the provisional licensure associate psychologist board topic?
No testimony, Chair.
Okay. Is there any action to be taken or any discussion that we need to be doing on that topic?
Yeah, I was gonna bring something up as a question. I had spoke with Jordan about this this week. So in the new law for the provisional license, it states for, where is it? It states for paragraph 465-7.2A 2. It states that the applicant is engaging in postdoctoral supervised experience in health service in psychology pursuant to an organized health service training program approved by the board. So one way of reading this is that all applications go before the board to approve the program, right? An alternative reading could be that the board already has definitions for a training program in the statute. So it would be just confirming that that's also the case, that what you would want for the provisional license holders as well, to adhere to that definition, right? So I talked with Jordan a little bit about it, and do you have additional?
Well, I mean, I think if I understood the question correctly, I think maybe what's being contemplated is that when there are provisional licensee applications, and I guess when the application indicates, I guess when evaluating the requirement that the applicant be a part of an organ, or that their postdoctoral supervised experience is pursuant to an organized health service training program approved by the board, whether or not that requirement is the same requirement stated in, I guess, 465-7, right, for regular licensure, which I believe is stated in that's A2B, which I think states the 2 parts is the applicant of the licensure shall demonstrate that the applicant has completed 1 year postdoctoral supervised experience in health service and psychology, and in B, it states 1 year supervised experience in health service and psychology in an internship or residency program and an organized health service training program. So whether or not that organized health service training program is the same requirement as stated in 7.2. So as a kind of like a roundabout way is that whether those 2 requirements are the same, and therefore you can use the same, I guess, evaluation criteria for both programs. Does that kind of capture what we're looking at? Yeah. So I think that was the question for the board is if so, then when evaluating an application, a provisional licensee application, if the same criteria would be used in, I guess, in determining whether or not the person is qualified for provisional license. There's a lot of words, but I think that's what the issue is.
Yeah, the major issue is the new provisional license language saying approved by the board. That's not in 7, right? It's just you have to be in organized health service training program. But it's not approved by the board, not in the language.
Well, I guess to that end though, right, the board currently has criteria
Yeah.
to evaluate that requirement. I'm not sure if, I think it's pursuant to the rules, right? Or,
Yeah, it's detailed out in the rule.
Yeah,
Well,
so-
it's detailed is maybe a strong word. But it does provide guidance in the rules.
and if it meets certain if it objectively satisfies those requirements, then it's typically not forwarded to the board for further review. Is that accurate?
Not specifically based on that, no.
Yeah,
As long as, so if it states that, like, basically, if the summary states something along the lines of, or it's clear that it's in the field of psychology, then it would clear and not have to go to the board.
yeah.
But as long as it reaches 1,900 hours at least, it's at least 1 year and is under the supervision of a licensed psychologist, then that would meet for 6.5 or 4657.
And so, so the question is whether to use the same criteria for the provisional licensee application, or if the board wishes, especially maybe in the infancy of the program, to review every application that for that requirement. I think that's what's being called.
Do we need to do anything about it, or is your interpretation good enough to satisfy the requirements?
Well, we're asking if the interpretation is okay. So it basically, like, I guess we could easily say, do you want the same criteria for the provisional license as the full license when it comes to the training program specific? I know that you guys are working on rules right now, so it may change, but for the time being, is it okay to use the same criteria from 7.2 when it states that the board approves the training
The
program?
only question I have is about timing, I think, and maybe I'm just not understanding it exactly, but they will not have done a postdoc yet. That's during their postdoc year that they're applying for associate licensure. They will only have had a predoctoral internship.
Right.
So
But
are we then obliged to say, well, it's cool that you have, we're going to give you an associate licensure, but be aware that make sure your postdoctoral experience right now is going to qualify you for licensure.
I think that's the thing that you have to look at is right now the form that indicates how their training is going to be in their postdoc is verification of the supervisor. So we do a form, it's postdoctoral training supervisor verification form, we'll call it that. On there, it indicates the date range of when the training's supposed to happen. I think they have to provide a summary of what they're going to go over, and that they are a licensed supervisor, or sorry, licensed psychologist.
If they end, like say they get out of the program, do they continue to hold on to that license, or do we have is there any provisions?
So the supervisor right now, so what it states in 7.2, or is it 7.2?
Yeah.
7.2.
Applicant for licensure shall demonstrate that the applicant has completed 1 year of postdoctoral supervised experience in health service and psychology, and an internship, and 1 year of supervised experience in health service in psychology. This is for licensure. This isn't for the advanced or the associate licensure.
So what happens if you move your supervisor, or your supervisor no longer is going to supervise you, that supervisor has
Yeah, I think it's a 7.2B2. Supervising psychologist has to notify
10
the board
days.
within 10 days.
yeah, so if they don't follow the full year, then we are supposed to be notified by the supervisor within 10 days of the termination. So right now, we're working on a letter from the PVL. So to notify the licensee that we have received information that their supervising relationship is no more. Therefore, we were requesting them to go inactive because they shouldn't be practicing on that license without the supervisor. we also will attach a new supervisor form. So if they have a new supervisor, we get that verification in, and then there's no need for inactivity. So that's the process we're working on right now to ensure that they're completing that and that they're actually adhering to the law with regard to the license. So they should be, applicants should all be remaining under supervision, right? And our license, the licensed provisional holders. But I guess it goes back to what they're going to do in that postdoc should necessarily meet the licensing requirements. We're talking about a provisional license, right? It's meant to get ready for full license. So it would make sense to say, you know, that the training that's happening in the postdoc that the license is for leads to the license. So it should meet the requirements of 7.
It's just pretty broad in terms of scope of services.
And that's why we're working on the rules, right? And then that also, yeah, if it refers to 7, then it will also refer to HAR because there is a section that indicates what needs to be done for your postdoc. I think it's just only in the field of psychology. So they can't use things like, you know, management hours and things like that, like
Yes.
practice management hours. So I guess the question is that an okay? And do they need to vote to include that, or should it just be indicated at the meeting?
I think that if the board wishes to, it can. I think it also can just be an affirmation that that's how they interpret it.
Okay.
And if you have questions, we can go into, if, at least for me, you can go into executive session if.
I don't think it's an executive session question. It's more like approval by the board. I'm still stuck on something you said earlier about, do we have to, as a board, approve each of these supervisors as they come up? And whether that is something we should have explicit or whether that is implied by the information and whether we have to do it or not. I'm just kind of a little bit off on that.
Whether there's a requirement to approve each supervisor, I don't think there's currently a requirement under the law to I guess that the board would be supervisor as part of the application. So I think it just requires that the supervising psychologist holds a current license. So as long as that's the case, it shouldn't necessarily require specific board approval. It's
So
like
the rules suggest that they have to submit a letter, or are we giving them a template letter that they can fill out and then submit to the board? How does that?
As far as when they say that they're not going to.
Let's say their supervisor for their postdoc leaves island, and so now they have to find a new supervisor. Don't they have to then submit a new?
Yeah, so if the supervisor knows that they're going to be leaving, then they should send notice to the board. It can be an email or whatever. Within 10 days of the termination or completion of the supervision.
Is there some sort of a form that they have to fill out?
There's no
information
form.
required, like
Yeah.
the name of the new supervisor
No,
and.
they don't need to indicate that. They just have to indicate that the relationship is terminated or completed.
I think Dr. Stern is referring to like, I guess, vacation or something like that, right? Is that what you're kind of,
Well,
or like
it's not
temporary?
unusual for
Yeah.
someone to be assigned a new postdoc supervisor, for example, after like they've had one for 3 or 4 months. It's like, well, let's give them some new experiences with a new
That
supervisor.
is their responsibility.
rotations.
It's the licensee, it's both the licensee's responsibility as well as the supervisor's responsibility to, or the supervisor's to inform the termination, and it's the licensee's obligation to have one in place. If not, then I think the procedures that they're working on is to request to be inactive in any.
I see, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like you brought up a good point in the question though. If you did interpret this as being like you have to approve every postdoc relationship before they get their license, if they do lose that supervisor, then that person is going to have to come back to the board and have their new supervisor reviewed again while they're already licensed, if you look at it that way. But if you look at it the other way, where you look at the training programs that leads to licensure through 4657, then really we can just state that training that you're going to be doing with the provisional license has to meet 7. So whatever you're doing has to meet 7, and then the HAR that is accompanying that.
Got it. What about, being able to approve administratively. Meaning they don't have to wait until a board meeting to check and see if their supervisory setup that they have in plan is
So-
going to meet the requirements for the licensure.
At the last meeting, you guys approved delegation to approve those applications that have no yes answers and meet the requirements. So we can approve outside the meeting. There's no internship verification, remember? We just have the application form that asks, did you complete an internship in your doctoral degree? That's a question you guys should be looking at a meeting, if it says no. Because that would not meet the requirements of the full license. And then the
Therefore,
definitions and the definition in 7.2, right?
Yeah.
So not in 7.2, in 465, I'm referring to the definition of professional psychology training program. Means doctoral training program that includes 1 and 2 or 1 and 3. And notice that in both those situations, 1 is there, right? Of the following. 1 is a planned program of study which reflects an integration of the science and practice of psychology, including practica and internship. And 2 is designated as a doctoral program in psychology by the Association of State and Provincial Boards in the National Register. I think that's defunct now, or is accredited by the Canadian Psychological Association. Or 3 is offered in a regionally accredited institution of higher education. So as long as you can see that 1 is in both of those situations. So in order to be licensed, full license, you have to have done practica and internship according to this definition.
But
Because you have to complete the training, professional psychology training program according to section 7, right? So it's a long pathway to get to it, but the threads of the logic are there.
I'm sorry, but the specifics of what constitutes a practicum training and internship training for a non-APA accredited program, let's say someone who went to non-APA accredited, got their degree from a non-APA program, but I don't think the administrative rules specify what needs to be in that practicum, what needs to be in that internship.
Okay, so in HAR 1698,
What's that?
I'm trying to go down. I forgot already. So there's a couple sections that are important. So there's section 9, which is training. So this has E, which states the training program shall require each student to fulfill an internship of at least 1,900 hours of supervised professional experience in the field of psychology satisfactory to the board.
But not for the practicum experience.
No, it doesn't state that, but
Just that they have completed a practicum.
yeah, that's in the law. Yeah. Okay, so D in that same section states, it's kind of long, but it says the training program wherever it may be administratively housed shall be clearly identified and labeled as a psychology training program. Such a program shall specify in pertinent institutional catalogs and brochures its intent to educate and train professional psychologists. There shall be a clear authority and primary responsibility within the psychology training program for the core areas as specified in subsections A to C. And also those are the training report courses. And also for specialty areas such as experimental, social, clinical, industrial, and physiological psychology, whether or not the psychology program cuts across administrative lines. The training program shall be an organized sequence of study planned by those responsible for the training program to provide an integrated educational experience leading to a professional practice of psychology. There shall be an identifiable psychology faculty and a psychologist responsible for the program. The training program shall have an identifiable body of students who have been accepted as candidates for a doctoral degree in psychology. So you can see it doesn't say anything about a practicum, but the law does, which supersedes the rule. But it doesn't say what the practicum consists of, correct?
So sorry, just that I'm following, what you just read out, that subsection D, that pertains to the requirement in 465-7 for full licensure.
Correct.
A1B, a professional psychology training program awarded. So that's the criteria for that,
Right.
correct?
Okay.
Yes,
And then
with the
I
definition.
think for purposes of this agenda item, we're trying to contemplate, well, I didn't think that this was a word thing, but we're looking at this to the extent that it may be applicable to 7.2A1B, professional psychology training for program, because that's the same language used in 7, correct? Okay. And for everyone following that, I'm just trying to make sure I was the only one who maybe did that.
I don't know enough about how it all works to say whether we need to have a vote or there needs to be any sort of administrative activity on the board's part to approve this. It seems like it's the language that we just need to transfer from the current law for full licensure and apply the same language to the.
I'm not sure if there's any, I guess maybe I should ask Chris, or Christopher, yeah, what did you want the board to contemplate, I guess?
I think like you had brought up earlier, just if the board wishes to confirm that the purpose of the provisional license is to meet the full license, therefore the requirements of 7 should apply to 7.2 as well. So with regard to the
Yes.
postdoc.
Well, maybe that's where I'll step in. I don't think that we should be voting on saying that all the requirements of 7 apply to 7.2, because those are two different statutes, two different types of licenses. And I don't think that that's something that,
Okay.
I thought that what we're contemplating
Just a
was
specific postdoctoral.
specifically, yeah, whether or not the postdoctoral experience and evaluating that would be the same criteria that we use for 7, and which I think, I mean, I don't want to opine and give out attorney-client advice in open session, but I thought that that's the
Yeah,
specific.
that's specifically what I meant.
Okay.
Sorry.
So if that is the case, I mean, I guess it depends, right? I think, I think I'm speaking too much in open. Perhaps I think we should go into executive session. That'd be my recommendation. If you'd entertain.
I'll take a motion to go into executive session.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Scanlon, seconded by Dr. Takushisara, and approved.
Just,
Oh, yeah, is there
We have to vote for that
Yeah,
too?
we have to vote, yes.
All in favor of going into executive session, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition or abstention? Hearing none, we are now going into executive session. I never get there, Dave. Mac is not happening. Okay, thank you. Okay, so regarding agenda item 3, provisional licensure associate psychologist, there was just an approval, or I guess a confirmation of interpretation related to postdoctoral experience involving the board confirming that requirements under 7.2A2 uses the same criteria as is the intent of the law, as in 465-7, in regards to postdoc training experience.
Thank you for the board. That'll help us move things along administratively.
Awesome. I think we can therefore move on to temporary permits, item 4 on the agenda. Board continues to review 465-9 relating to temporary permits. First, I guess I call for any testimony on this issue. Is there any testimony on this agenda item?
No testimony, Chair.
Thank you. I think we are due for is there any reports from board members on this topic?
Yes, this is what I submitted. So looking at what is on there, a little convoluted because it's in the same area as examination waiver or temporary permit, and it's just not very clear. And then looking at other states, it seems that we can clean up our processes a little bit, and which is what we want, right? We want to have visitors or even residents that move here supported, in their moves, and able to retain their psychologists for a period of time in which they can transit into another psychologist, or not. So looking at again what is there, it seems like a long process, and I don't think we get any applicants possibly because of the process and also the short time period. So I put together some suggested verbiage and to see if maybe that can be adopted or somehow put into or mixed in with the current ones. I'd say the base thing, we need to separate temporary permit from the examination waiver because they seem to be two different.
So you're referring to HAR 1698-25?
1-6.
16 025.
In the rule, it's actually section 25. Or unless there's a second one.
16 is.
Oh, wow, there is. Okay.
Maybe I don't have the other one.
So what is this one?
So this would be 1698-16 or -25?
Okay, so it looks like 25 is an additional requirement that they need to confirm, probably through license verification, the other state, that they are licensed and that came after they passed the EPPP. Somebody who got a license in another state who didn't require EPPP could not request a temporary permit, I think, according to this section.
Let's see.
That would make sense.
A bit surprising that not all states require the EPPP. Is that correct?
I'm not sure that's the case anymore. Because I think this is, so I think at this time, there were people who were licensed prior to the EPPP or like its more previous iteration. So this allows them, or there are certain sections of the chapters that allow for them to still maintain licensure and stuff or to apply. But since these were written in, 98 or whatever, that may not be the case anymore. But I agree. I agree with Dr. Scanlon that it should be two different sections.
Yeah, we should probably split that up. And then again, the idea again is to make it easier for someone if they do have, the person that moves here has some support.
What would be the minimum requirement for that kind of temporary situation that you'd want to see? I mean, I know you want to go through these. So would that answer my question? Okay. Do you want to go line by
Sure.
line?
Yeah, that's fine, and then we can, at least I'll know where we're at as a board. So a person not licensed in the state of Hawaii who wishes to engage in a temporary practice of psychology shall petition the board for a temporary period. Okay, that's done. That's language from the previous one. Services for a minimum of 45 days of psychological assessment or treatment in a 9-month period. This one, I was trying, we had it 90 days, I think, before, and then a lot of states have it like a year in there. So I split the difference, or kind of the difference. But so that can be a year if you guys want. But I just put 9 months. I was thinking probably for students when they come in for college and all.
I see. So you're thinking of like semester times.
Yeah, but it could be a year. I don't have a strong opinion. I just put it in there.
Other states is 9 months, I think. I don't know if anybody has a year, do
I
they?
think no, I think most of them, at least California, Oregon, Washington. So that's but don't put that out. I'm not too sure. So,
California changed to make it consecutive.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like
Sorry.
they don't like, you have 30 days, but those are 30 days total. I mean, it's not, it used to be 30 days over the course of a year. So like once a week for 30 weeks, you could see a patient within whatever it was, 9-month or 1 year
We have
period.
a strident one too. I might be mixing my states where if it is that, then you don't need to go through them at all. So
Right.
ones that you apply through the board. But trying to get what we have and apply it here. Yeah, so we're just trying to do ours. Yeah, so whatever. So it can be a year if you want. I'm open, but I did want to specify so that we don't have the confusion of, is it a calendar where I can see them in this window, or is it the amount of sessions? Some would say 45 days, then it's 45 sessions plus 3 years or whatever. So that's why that's specified.
Would, so from an administrative perspective, the application for a temporary permit, would probably be a standalone form. So, because right now you can use, I think, the application form for temporary, but that's because they have to submit the requirements basically of a full license. But in the instance that it's separate, an application form would ask for certain information. Are you stating that you would want to have on the application that they be more specific about what the care they're going to be giving? Or
Yeah, so I think it would say, I think it's a later one. You have to say what your spot dates are. What the window is. I don't know if you're applying for a temporary, you're trying to see someone who's, say I'm in California, someone's transitioning here and I'm seeing them. I don't know if you can plan it out that well. So I think, because it might be crisis and you have to see them every day for 10 days straight, or they might be transitioning every 2 weeks and then crisis. So I didn't have that specified, and I don't know if that is specifiable on an application, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen. So
well, that's good for administrative.
Please give us every hour and okay. So I guess before I go on, so some have 30, some it varies. So is the 45 days sound good over 9 months, or do you want to extend that to a 1 year period?
So maybe the one thing I'll note is that when looking at creating a time frame, I think the main thing is we can't conflict with the statute. And the statute says the permit can be for a period not to exceed 90 days within a calendar year. So
that can't be changed at all.
yeah,
Under
the
statute, we'd have to do
statutory
an amendment.
change, yeah.
We have to go through the legislature to get
Yeah.
But you can specify how that 90 days.
Yeah, I think you can specify it can be for like a non-consecutive period or something to that extent, but I think the general confines has to be that requirement, unless absent a statutory change.
So the language currently is 90 days over a calendar year.
Period not to exceed 90 days within a calendar year shall petition. And then the board has discretion to extend it for a period not to exceed 90 days. So there can be two 90-day periods. The second, but I think the permit can only be for 190, and then the board has discretion to extend it an additional 90.
90 days within a calendar year. So that, by having within a calendar year, that would imply 90 sessions within a, right? Because why would you say calendar year? Why don't we just say 90 days?
Right.
Which is in our favor, I guess. So we
Yeah.
could just go 90. So we just change this to 90 days in a 1 year.
In 12-month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all right. Cool. Moving on. And then again,
Of course, sorry, I'll just, before you move on and we get into other ones. A statutory change would just mean you would have to have, like, say, to get like either the association or some other public member to submit a bill that would amend that. So you could see, which would change how your rule would look.
We'd have to go through a legislator to do that. We can't introduce bills ourselves, right?
Correct. So you would ask like APA or not HPA or somebody to, if they would help
Partner with
introduce.
it, with
Yeah. So you'd ask.
I don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, because if it's already in there and it's as long as we can do the 12-month period, then I think that's fine. And that would match other.
Being pretty generous, actually. That's a lot of sessions. It's pretty rare that you would use it that much.
6 months.
And I would argue that may be a little too generous and that we may want to reduce it because it's like if they're that long, then they should be seeing somebody in state
Right.
for services. If emergency arises, how's that person remotely going to really be able to help? You can't call 911 from California to Hawaii. You have to be with the client when the 911 call goes through and the client has to initiate it, kind of thing. So
Okay, well then.
I agree with your suggestion. I just think that maybe at this time it's not a priority though. So we should probably stick with 90 days,
But
but
it should be considered when you guys are drafting the rules. right?
correct. That's
So,
my point is that as we look forward to these rule revisions we're going to be making, that should be one of the things we look at.
As we pick apart, okay. And then, but so currently that first statement is now we're good. Matches that and we're.
Yeah.
Okay. The second one is again, I saw it in some other states was to service one client. And so that who must be physically located here. And again, that's the idea of transitioning with someone not opening up and servicing a whole bunch of people. And then the provider's not a resident of the state of Hawaii. If you can understand, it's like we don't want them here. They're already here, so.
Sorry, before we move on, I won't go deep in for that requirement. I think if it were to be put in a rule, I would just have to research if there could be constitutional issues with requiring like it to be an out-of-state resident. I'm not saying but I just want to note that might be a legal issue that we need to look further into if implemented.
So how could you confirm it? That's something that you can't confirm because they have HIPAA rights. We can't ask who's the person you're going to be servicing. Is it just one person?
Well, I think you intended for the provider, right?
Yeah, this is the provider.
So the permittee, I guess, right? Or no, maybe I read that
No,
wrong.
it's the client.
Well,
Or
no,
the client.
Provider is the client, is the patient, is that?
Well, again, the second, the provider is not a resident of the state. Is that what you're?
Provider.
Yeah, that's the.
Yeah, that's safe to say. He's the one that's.
I'm going the one before that. The permit is to service one client or family. How can you confirm that that's only one client that they're
I
doing?
wasn't referring to that. I was just the provider.
Sorry.
I think just generally, like if we're like limiting permits to out-of-state residents, it just that might trigger constitution. All I'm saying is that I'm just noting it might require additional legal input.
Because we have that now.
I think just generally, like vaguely, like the state issuing or like precluding issuance of permits and limiting it to a certain subset of individuals, just generally trigger potential
Okay.
constitutional issues.
I see what you wrote the permit to service one client who must be physically located in the state of Hawaii wouldn't be a criteria for the application of the temporary permit. It would be a condition of.
Condition, right.
So then if there is an issue and RICO has to get involved and they find out this psychologist was seeing multiple families,
Yes,
then they would be violating the rule.
yes.
So that's when it would come into effect. It wouldn't be like during application,
Yes.
tell us who you're going to be
Yes.
It's just be aware you can do with one client
Right.
or one
That was
family.
just that concern. Then the second one, Jordan, we're good with that. You're gonna check on that one.
Yeah, it's just something I think I would have to check.
So does that mean administratively, I'm sorry, just, I want to finish this one item. When the letter goes to them, giving them a permit, it's a formal process where they apply and they get an approval letter.
Yeah.
That approval letter would have that conditional element in it.
Yeah, we would include
language.
that, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And then in the application, they have to supply their address. So if their address is Hawaii, then you would not qualify if you find that that's okay. Otherwise, you would see the address of them like in Utah or wherever. So that would be the indication that they are out of state.
I think, yeah, so far as all of the rules and stuff, the other ones, it's like, yes, I attest that, and then they sign the bottom. So they know that these are the rules.
That is something else we can
Thank
do.
you.
Yeah, we can do it. We're not calling it attestation anymore, are we? Because attestation, I think, requires notarization according to our administrative processes. So it's an affirming, like confirmations. But yeah, we can do that on the application form. Okay. Please be aware that you will be able to be one person.
All the things.
It's only for 90 days. This, if you agree to all that, sign. And
Okay,
All right, cool. Moving on. The client-provider relationship was established prior to the client arriving in state of Hawaii. That's
yeah, again, that would be in a condition in like.
the client, yes, these are conditions. The client is informed that you are not licensed to practice in the state of Hawaii beyond what is granted in the parameters of this temporary practice permit. Good. The client is informed of the state of Hawaii licensing laws, including temporary practice limitations for the provider.
good.
The permit is for psychological assessment and treatment services. This one I put in, but I don't know, I gotta go look, I didn't jump into, the problem is that when we say, psychological services or the practice of psychology, it's pretty broad.
Yeah.
And I didn't want that to mess up, for that breadth to be included in this temporary permit, which we are granting just for certain services. So that's why I wanted to specify assessment and treatment services.
Can we though do that? And would that be outside of what is in the statute? If the statute uses language that talks about a more general, broad description of the scope of services?
I was gonna ask what you meant by that.
In reality, I mean, I can't see anybody doing a temporary permit to do industrial psychology, but
They wouldn't even be licensed through us. So like that's.
yeah, I was just trying to think of the breadth of what they have, but I don't
They
think
have an exemption.
Yeah.
I think the only problem is that the statute says wishes to engage in the practice of psychology, which is a defined term, and I think to carve it out would
Okay,
arguably go against the statute.
okay, we can take that out. No problem.
At least until we change and get more specific about it. So just as a point of information, the process works such that it is what it is now. First, we have to get either rules changes, and then that would result in changes to the definition of terms, or would it be statutory change first to the revised statutes, and then rules changes to match the statutory change.
So I think it depends on what you're
Scope of
trying to,
practice.
what you're trying to accomplish. I think in this case, the easiest way is just to conform your rules to the statute. And it's it seems like most of this is not inconsistent with the statute. But if you want to make changes that conflict with it, it would start with the statutory change.
But administratively speaking, you can plan on, say, like an amendment happening, and you can affect it as best you can at the legislature through testimony, right? And get what you want. And that means you can have already a prepared rule set for the future ready. So you don't have to wait. You can just have it ready. And once the statute changes, then you can start pushing through the new HAR.
Okay, good. And then so we can take out that permit is for psychological assessment. The provider holds a license to independently practice psychology in another state, and that license is current and in good standing with no outstanding complaints, suspensions, or revocations.
That would be a good restriction, right? Because you don't would we want a provisional holder that has to be supervised covering someone in Hawaii? That seems like
Yeah, no. Yeah,
that's what you're trying to eliminate.
yeah, that's what the other guys said too. So that's kind of like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Can we do that? based on the statute.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that conflicts.
These guys sign off, yeah, so they sign off, yes, I do not have any other, kind of like our applications. Canada, I can take that out because it gets confusing. That would take an extra.
I don't know if they can though. We'd have to look into that because for license, they have to have been granted the authority to work in the USA
I'm just
to
gonna,
obtain a
I'm gonna
license.
take it out. This is just for temporary permit.
But that may not be the case for a temporary permit. I don't know.
I mean, the law says that if the person is licensed or certified in another state deemed by the board is the equivalent in this chapter, so I
It
don't.
doesn't say state or
Let's
province.
just keep it state then.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, take that out. And then, I put the provider holds a doctoral degree in psychology.
I think it has to say clinical psychology.
I don't think that's the case anyway, because people can be licensed in other states with a doctorate in counseling psychology.
I see.
That's,
I'm just concerned that a school psychologist would want to
yeah,
possibly do practice work here.
true, yeah,
Okay.
If they're licensed, then they could, right?
Yeah, because it's well, I mean, our full statute or for a full license allows for school psychologists to be licensed. So like a degree in school psychology. But the problem is like our criteria is too high for them. But
so I think I'll just note, sorry, before this, is that, I mean, I think this could be maybe adjusted to something more like reference to the qualifications that state that we have for our own licensure.
I'll just copy the,
Yeah, or, and it can just be so like, holds the same qualification noted and pursuant to, and we can refer to whatever rule, just because the statute reads that they, have standards equivalent to this chapter. So I think if we state, oh, it holds a doctoral degree, someone can say, well, I have a doctor, and even though they might not qualify in other areas, or don't,
but, yeah, put that in because I think there's other states that were licensing masters.
yeah,
Like,
that's true.
Falling over in which would be,
So I think having like some kind of broad language, like something like standards equivalent to this chapter or something like that will give at least the board discretion to determine as opposed to maybe being too specific. I mean, I understand what you're trying to do, but if you're too specific, then an applicant might be able to
Yes, I got
kind
it.
of dig in other ways, yeah.
okay, so maybe, is there a way later you can give me that line?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
I think that line comes first also before these conditional permits things. That's more like not a condition. That's not going to be in that letter that they get. It's gonna be a requirement.
Any other, thoughts or
yeah, you
ideas?
could own like a doctoral degree from like in paranormal psychology or something.
Ooh. All right, so, go to that so far as we're not, and then the applications part, I'll defer because this is kind of on your guys' side. On what would be needed, so I don't know if.
I mean,
We'll set it first and then you tell us.
no, I can go through these, like the specific dates of activity is possible. But we're talking about a date range.
Yes.
Yeah.
Provider name, proof of state licensing, that would be a part of the application form. They have to, so let me bring up the criteria for 436B. Okay, oops.
The range of activity.
All right, so application and requirements for licensure. This is 436B-10. They have to have the applicant's legal name, affirmation that the applicant is beyond the age of majority, so 18, for the state of Hawaii. The applicant's current residence, business and mailing addresses and phone numbers. So I think current residence address would probably be important for this temporary permit, right? The applicant's social security number, if the licensing authority is authorized by federal law to require the disclosure. The date and place of any conviction of a penal crime directly related to the profession or vocation in which the applicant is applying for licensure, unless the conviction has been expunged or annulled or is otherwise precluded from consideration by section 831.
436B's already got the language. We just
Yes.
cut it and paste it.
Yeah, so proof that the applicant is a United States citizen, a United States national, or alien authorized to work in the United States. Disclosure of similar licensure in any state. So that's a license verification, right? Disclosure of disciplinary action. Any other information the licensing authority may require to investigate the applicant's qualifications for licensure. So that's a little bit of a broad one for you guys to like capture some additional information you want, but it can't conflict with 465, right? So beyond the age of majority, U.S. citizen. Yeah, that's basically it. So failure to provide the above information and pay the required fees shall be grounds to deny the application for licensure. So if they can't meet
Temporary
the
permit, you mean? In
Uh,
this case.
Yes.
right. Which temporary permit, I guess technically is just a temporary license.
I don't know, I mean, the law calls it a temporary permit.
I know, but I mean,
In all effect,
the
yeah.
function is
Yeah.
the same.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were issued a number or anything like that. That's a good question. I have to ask internally.
It seems to me, though, that it's like, in some states, you don't have to apply for a permit if it's just gonna be, I have to see this person on vacation and we have a couple of weeks or whatever. Do we have that in ours, or is it either temporary permit or you're licensed or you don't get to see the patient?
That is the latter.
It's the latter, right? So this would mean there's still gonna be an administrative lag, such that the person who's applying for this temporary permit may wait 1 to 2 months or more in order to provide that service, which may require them to be providing the services sooner than 1 to 2, 3 months down the road. They have to wait to determine whether they can see this patient. And especially if it's telehealth and the person calls them and says, "Hey, I'm in college and I think I have to drop out. I'm really having a hard time." And now I may contact the Board of Psychology in Hawaii. They contact the board and the board says, "Here's an application for permit, send it in." And meanwhile, they got a client in crisis. Do we have anything for that?
I think that's the two levels that I saw at the other states, where if it's within a short amount of time, it's you don't have to go through us. And then there's the other one that's like this.
But we don't have that first one.
Correct.
We don't have the second one.
Okay, we're gonna have to do that.
I mean, the real issue is the language where it states standards equivalent to our own, right? That's the whole reason why somebody with a temporary permit has to supply internship postdoc, because we have to confirm that it's equivalent to our own. So.
That's not good. It gets too cumbersome.
A statutory change would eliminate, and if that was removed out of there and some other kind of condition was placed that has the same kind of force.
Well, I mean, I don't think, it's just like if the person is licensed or certified in another state deemed by the board to have standards equivalent to this chapter. So it's like, if someone's licensed in another state and the board, I think that infers that the board has discretion to determine, well, okay, Missouri, their standards are equivalent or substantially
by the
equivalent
states.
to ours, yeah. As opposed to being like, okay, we're gonna have to review it just like a regular application and make sure they have 1900.
That's what I thought.
That's what it,
I
language is
I
now.
think it could be argued that it's just a discretionary call whether the board believes that the licensure is,
That's what I thought.
requirements are, because that would be cumbersome. You might as well just apply for a regular license.
And that's why nobody does it.
Yeah.
Is there a way to say in our temporary permit language that if it is going to be briefer than this, if the need is only for a few sessions or less than a 30-day time period, that the board only needs to be informed of this and that the person has to be licensed in their state?
That would be different. We'd have to go through the
I think
longer
it would have to- I
process.
think it would have to be statutory.
So end goal maybe we do this one, because this one is easy to implement quickly, and then add that other tier later on when we do.
Next session or whatever.
Yeah, and then that way, they can look at actually their client and see what that's gonna be. If it's a college guy, like I know beforehand he's going to UH, so you can apply and go for the bigger one. But if they, go on vacation and suddenly have a crisis here, they can do the 30, that shorter one.
Right, because a lot of states have that.
Yeah.
And you contact them and they say, "Here's what our law says," and it says that you can do it. It's okay.
Does that sound like okay game plan? We can go ahead with that. So for next meeting, then we'll clean up. I'll get some of the stuff from you and then I'll clean up and get a better proposal. And then
I guess we'll
maybe
fold
vote on
this, we'll fold it in, I guess, to the other rule changes that we'll just contemplate. Is that kind of what the plan is? Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I think we were gonna do two separate, we were gonna do the restrictive authority rule set alone, and then we're doing the other updates separately, so we can fold this into that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Dr. Scanlon.
Yes, thank
No problem.
you.
No
Thank
problem.
you for your work on this. Any additional discussion on temporary permits? Well, no motion at this time, but deferred till next meeting, at which time we will entertain a motion on this. Okay, moving on to agenda item 5, administrative rules. Do we have any testimony on, or seeking any testimony on administrative rules number 5?
No testimony, Chair.
Thank you. This is specific to 5A, prescriptive authority testimony. Is that correct? Thank you.
And then maybe I can jump in to, so 5A, there's a pig, right? Formed, or was there a pig or no?
Yes, a pig is formed with Dr.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think unless there's any final recommendation, I don't think that any update can be given.
I think it was more you had a question.
Yeah, I had some questions.
Oh, okay.
Is it related to the process or related to the content?
I think more the process, I would say.
You don't have to go into executive session for that?
No, I mean, I guess it just depends on what your question is and who's, if it's just for the board, then you can ask it. I think what I want to maybe specify is that technically OIP is kind of, because it's a pig, like it doesn't, it's the structure of it, as long as it's not construed as an update, like you're giving an update on your guys,
Yeah.
that you're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're just asking the board a question about.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, I had a couple of questions after going through all of the material. So I guess number one, are we, for the pig that we created, June, are we specifically doing it, just creating the rules just for the pilot study? Right, not for subsequent.
No.
Okay, because that makes a huge difference, I think, in
Okay.
terms of.
Yeah.
I was looking at 708, I'm like, oh my gosh, like all the, anyway, okay. And then for the purpose of the pilot, are we looking to create a conditional certificate just for the length of study? Because I know when I was reviewing 708, it was the material, I think, was introduced as having a conditional, but that was not stated in the final act, right?
Right.
About having a conditional
So
certificate.
just administratively speaking, I'm just talking about what happens with pharmacy.
Mhm.
So in pharmacy, they have the authority to approve pilot projects. So they do have an application form that's like a general form,
Okay,
but it's not like catered specifically to one type of pilot project. So it's just meant to get the identifying information from 436B. And that's basically it. And then whatever additional would be required to know that they have the credentials.
Okay.
So we can probably do something along the same lines for this,
okay.
if that's what the board wishes to do.
Yeah, that's.
The one thing that we haven't done is reach out to Shipta, who's supposed to be leading this pilot project. So I think that might be a request after you guys report the pig.
Okay,
Maybe get them to come.
Sorry, Shipta? Could you specify?
That's
What is
the state. Oh gosh, it's in the executive branch. The State Health Planning and Development Agency. Yeah, he testifies like every day. But they are the ones who are managing the pilot project.
Mhm.
All right.
Oh, sorry.
Do they have to consult? Is the pig supposed to consult with them to get information on this?
Um,
I don't think so. Sorry, I think the board is the one who has
Yeah.
depend on the rules. It's just I think they're just supposed to report to the legislature about this program, so. And then I guess I'll only add that I think when you're looking at the rules, I would just limit, what you're trying to effectuate on the final version of the act. So not on prior versions that may have been the intent or things like that. Just whatever the final version of the act is, like the confines of what the rules should.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, that first
Yeah.
question was, I
Yeah.
think, the biggest one, because wasn't sure if we were actually, trying to make rules for, should this
Mhm.
pilot
Yeah,
be
yeah.
successful?
Mhm.
Okay, all right.
yeah, I think the idea was to have a expiration date based on the bill
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Got it. So this will just be a separate section in the initiative.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's gonna be added temporarily, or how does
Yeah,
that?
it'll state that
Oh,
it
that's the
expires.
expiration. I see.
Life of the
Okay.
pilot
Okay.
project kind of thing.
That's why we're making it separate, yeah. So then you guys have your normal rules, that'll expire out. And
Okay,
then, yeah.
okay, got it. Okay, all right, that answers my question. Thank you.
That all, the only question you have? Okay, we're gonna defer 5A to the next meeting. And look forward to hearing more from the pig.
Well, yeah, June and I have still yet to meet, so.
We will be hearing from.
We hope to be hearing.
Yes.
Maybe that's better wording. Okay, and then now there's item 5B, license requirements modernization, involving rules change to modernize training and education requirements such as internship, postdoc experience, coursework, and how to submit evidence of meeting the requirements. Is there any testimony on that item?
No testimony, Chair.
Okay. I think that one also is going to be deferred unless someone wants to ask any questions in the board meeting on that item.
Well, I just would like to say that the conversation about the provisional license and requirements for the postdoc and everything should hopefully inform what we're doing with this rule change as far as like internship requirements, postdoctoral requirements.
And even practicum training requirements.
And yeah, if you want
They
to,
could.
right. So those would go into several sections, and that's another question about the rules themselves and how they're structured, right? Because I indicated two different sections that deal with internship and postdoc. There's the training section, which shows what kind of training you should have gotten. And then there's the reporting section, which is like the validation section. So what you have to supply. I don't know if you guys want to do that. That's two different sections when maybe it can just be all in one. So then you have like, say, subsection A that has the requirements, and then subsection B is the reporting. So like the validation requirements, which would be what you have to submit. It can all be in one section maybe. Instead of spacing everything out through rules, throughout the rules, where now you have to look not only at the definitions, but this section and this section and this section, all for just one license type. One thing also, I would also state that the statute for 4657 has different criteria for alternatives to licensure through exam or exam waiver, right? So you can do National Register, you can do CPQ, you can do the APP diplomat, or lastly, senior psychologist. So those should also be looked at, I think, and maybe even consider rules. For example, National Register is pretty good about, and diplomat are pretty good about having their certificate holders report to them for violations, right? But if you look at the CPQ certificate, ASPPB doesn't state that. They actually state you should also do your check. The state is telling the state authorities to basically do their own check of license verification. So right now I have our licensing clerk requesting license verifications for CPQ holders. in addition to the certificate because of what it says on that certificate. So, that may be something you guys want to that might be an additional thing you might want to add into rules to just to specify these types of things because really that's not anywhere in the law or rule. But if the certificate providers are telling me that they don't have a current status of that person's license in other states, then we should probably verify that those licenses are still okay. Because that, according to 436B10, we have to disclose any disciplinary action by any state or territory. We're trusting National Register and the ABPP to do that for us. But because CPQ and ASPPB has indicated that we should also check, that's why we're doing it only for them. But might need a rule. I'm not sure about that, but I just wanted to bring that up because these have to do a lot with how the structure of the rules is, like section by section and subchapter. It's all kind of spread out. Maybe it can just be consolidated into different form.
Well, that wouldn't be keeping with the rest of the revised documents and rules, which are scattered similarly.
Right. Yeah.
I'm being facetious. I hear your intent, and I think we can try to do that. It may be the first, though, and maybe the only ones to do it. Okay, thank you. Any other item, any other discussion related to license requirement modernization? If not, we'll proceed on to item 6 on the agenda, questions for the board. I've been informed that 6A, Dr. Cumes's requirement has been withdrawn. And so administratively, I think we can go ahead and skip 6A, Dr. Cumes's requirement for directing individual and supervision. Is that correct? We can.
Yeah. He requested to see deferred. Yeah.
Okay. So he requested that it be referred.
Yes.
Deferred, excuse me. Okay, thank you.
Or not deferred, but just still, there's no need to.
Retracted?
Yeah, he just withdrew.
Okay, withdrawn. Okay. That takes us to page 6, and I think Dr. Diana Mercais Nagasakas asks that question. My spouse holds an MFT license in Hawaii. We're planning to establish a content-based business, et cetera, et cetera. So we're familiar with this from the last meeting. I'm not sure what action the board is being asked to take. Do we have anyone wishing to provide testimony on Dr. Mercai Nagasaka's inquiry?
Testimony, Chair.
Thank you. Any discussion on board, or do we have any updates on that particular question?
They supplied a response to the letter I sent. Trying to find it. It doesn't look like I got it in here. Let me see here. It's in the OneDrive packet. Yeah. So I can bring it up and read it out.
Okay. Would you please?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, but didn't see it.
I have it. It's we got it in the packet, or is this too old? This is dated April 10th.
Oh, yeah, that's,
That was
let me,
April, right?
Yeah, and then we responded July.
Right. I didn't see anything after.
Yeah.
so. In the packet, so let me,
We're gonna do some research on.
yeah, so, I looked through the meeting minutes and I did find, something maybe kind of related. So somebody asked if they needed to, I believe it would require a license or temporary permit to provide psychoeducational training in an education course, right? So anyways, I sent them a letter on July 31st, that stated that at its regular publicly noticed meeting, the board reviewed their question, so as it's written in the agenda. After due consideration of this information, the board voted to defer your question pending further research within the board's meetings minutes to see if it has previously informally opined on similar questions or business structures. So what I found was meeting minutes from 2011. And here, I highlighted it. So January 3rd, 2011 email regarding psychology Hawaii law question. Can a non-licensed psychologist present a public workshop? Members reviewed an email with two questions. May a person who is not licensed not a licensed psychologist present a public workshop dealing with autistic spectrum disorders, J. Lacan, M. Klein, and a DVD showing an autistic program in Palma de Mallorca. When advertising such a workshop, would it be legal for the person to append the initials MPC after their name, which is a master of
Psychology and.
Psychopedagogia Clinica from the Universidad de León in Barcelona. So they're asking if they can use titles. There would be no pretense of soliciting clients or presenting oneself as a psychologist. So what the board did is, after discussion, the board informally opined that a person who is not a licensed psychologist may present a public workshop dealing with autistic spectrum disorder. Furthermore, when the advertising for such a workshop, the presenters may append their titles, such as NPC, after their names, provided that the individual is not representing to be a psychologist and does not offer or render to individuals or groups of individuals services defined as the practice of psychology. And then also according pursuant to HAR 16-201-90, it's not an official opinion. They just informally opined. So it didn't have any legal force. They were just answering the questions, which is something you guys should also be doing too.
Phrasing sounds appropriate in this case.
Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know if that ties completely, but that's pretty much the only thing I could find about psychoeducational courses in the meeting minutes history.
That's a little distinguishable, right? Because they weren't licensed psychologists and their services were limited to, I think, some kind of limited to something that may not be considered. Yeah, it's a limited topic.
And the topic is not only under the scope of services of psychologists, but other professions also address that topic. So it makes sense that you would not be needing to have.
Right. I think, in looking at the letter a little bit closer, I think it depends on what general educational content reflects and whether it reflects the practice of psychology, right? Oh, that was my thought anyway, because that's what the question is originally.
I think the only thing I'll note, maybe an open session, if there's further questions, we can go into executive session, is that, in looking at the definition of the practice of psychology, it's like, it's vague and it's general. You can argue one way or the other that it would fall under it. I think the main distinction that she's making in her email is that she's not creating any individual clinical or client relationships. She's not going to be imparting individual, like, specialized advice. It's just general. I think the only thing I'll note is that in the definition, it states, after, vaguely describing what may be considered psychology, it says psychological services may be rendered to individuals, families, groups, organizations, institutions, and the public. So to the extent that I think, just all that to say is that I don't think just because she doesn't have an individual client, she's not creating individual client relationships. Our statute says that psychological services can be rendered to the public too. So it doesn't cut it off at only individuals. So yeah.
To me, it sounds pretty straightforward that she's not engaging in the practice of psychology and therefore it's not within our purview. So,
If that's the, I guess if that's the board's, I can,
so it's just me,
yeah,
but
oh, yeah,
Steve.
yeah.
So there is no indication that they will be running groups, right? Where they will have people disclosing information about themselves. Is that right? Okay, then I would agree with that.
He had specific questions, right?
Yeah, and they're in
Yeah.
the, this is page 5. So they asked, do the activity described above fall within the scope of regulated practice under Hawaii Revised Statutes, Chapter 465? And applicable Hawaii administrative rules. So it sounds like what they're doing does
Right.
fall under the definition.
That was my concern. I guess
Right?
my question was that it kind of depends on whether the phrase it as general educational content reflects the practice of psychology as defined by the juris.
I think it does because they're drawing on their professional knowledge,
Right,
which is from their
that's-
field.
That's what I feel. I mean, I think depending on what the general educational content is, that's I guess the question here.
Okay. So are you saying that you need to know what that information is? I know that they might have proprietary concerns,
Right,
about
right.
disclosing that here. But
I guess that was just something that I stood out to me, like if they're basing that general educational content on their experience and knowledge, it could fall under, right? Or reflect the practice of psychology as defined by 465.
Maybe an illustrative example would help me. What if, for example, the individual is the people who want to participate in their psychoeducational program are working on saving their marriage and trying not to get divorced. Let's say that's the group that they have brought together to educate them about what needs to happen if you don't want to end up getting divorced and you want your relationship to survive this difficult time that you're in. That I would say is under our auspices, because if they give unethical advice, if they give stuff that's not evidence-based and they're talking about just their opinions as opposed to what is supported by research, then I think that they could get in trouble. And one of the families could be like, they told us to do this, and then that's, that doesn't seem like it's right. It caused a backfire. It turned out to be bad. And should they have been telling us to do those things and providing us with that education?
I would, I would recommend going into executive.
Okay. I agree. Can we take, I'll entertain a motion to enter into executive session?
Motion to.
Maybe, and it's just an interest of efficiency, so it looks like 6, we may need it for 6C2, Dr. Coates.
There,
And
so
then also for applications, which is the next item.
So do you
So,
want to do all of that?
I mean, just to.
Can we just do
avoid-
that and say so, or just need to stipulate it in the?
I think maybe, because we already asked for public testimony for 6, maybe just note we were going in for 7 as well and ask for public testimony. at
Thank
this.
you. Okay, so we're going to be entering into executive session as it's just been voted, but before we do, is there any public testimony on elements related to the discussion of Dr. Coates' question and any discussion related to applications or any questions
There's no testimony. at
or
this
testimony,
time.
excuse me. Thank you.
No, Chair.
So so the motion for executive session, maybe just note, can we go into executive session for items 6B, C, and 7?
Okay. So the motion is to go into executive sessions for items 6B, C, actually 6C and 7. Applications. Okay.
a second.
All in favor of going into executive session for those items? Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, thank you. As a point of order, I guess we're going to take a brief recess for biological break, as it were, before we enter into executive session.
All right, I think we can go into executive session and then you guys
And then
can go,
go.
you guys can just take a
Thank
break
you.
without having to recess or, so you guys can go.
Thank you. Okay. So going back to item 6 on questions for the board. 6B under Dr. Diana Nagasaka. I think we decided to send her a letter informing her that the board's opinion is informal and non-binding, and that without having access to the content currently, the Board of Psychology is not in a position to respond to her questions. Do I have a motion to support that?
Maybe, I think there's a little bit more clarification.
There's more clarification.
Yeah, and I believe the board will find out a motion to respond that she review HRS chapter 465 and HAR chapter 16.
1698-34 specifically.
Or, yeah, and to the extent that, she believes her content may fall under the scope of or the practice of psychology as defined in those laws and rules, that her conduct would be subject to our rules, including 1634. And that to the remainder of her questions, that the board cannot provide legal advice
Without that information being provided.
for the remainder of her, I believe for questions 2, 3, and 4. So the board can provide a response to that, and then we'll provide it all in writing. So if there's a motion for the board to.
Thank you, that's what.
Thank you, that's pretty thorough.
No, that's what we talked about.
Mhm.
So we need a motion.
That is the motion.
Or, I can't.
Continuation of the
I can't-
motion.
so what-
Motioning?
So, yeah, I'll motion that. Both the original section and the additional information provided by AG Chain.
Motion.
Okay,
Second.
it's second, moved and seconded. All in favor of the motion? Aye. Any opposed or abstaining? Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Now we move on to Dr. Coates' question. And on that one, I think the motion is that the Board of Psychology cannot provide any legal opinions on this issue, only an informal opinion. This does not appear to fall under the board's jurisdiction. And we're not in a position to opine on the questions she asked. Does that seem okay?
Yeah, I think also to her specific question on whether the Hawaii has a law that similarly prohibits the board from disciplining for psycho. The answer would be no. I believe that's what.
Yes.
Yeah.
Such that we do not have a law that suggests that her actions would come under our jurisdiction.
So if there's a second or a motion, and second. Yep.
Seconded?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of this motion? Okay, any in opposition or abstentions? So that motion carries. Moving on to item 7, applications. The ratification of approved applications is as follows. Lauren S. Haruno, Megan McDonald, Samantha Kalilikane, Catherine Goodman-Huzella, David Drestrup, and Brandon Martinez. The motion was to approve these applications,
The
the
ratification.
ratification of these approved applications.
Motion.
So moved by Dr. Scanlon, seconded by Dr. Takushi Sara. All in favor of that motion to approve? Or ratify the approved applications? Any opposed to the ratification of these approved applications? Abstentions? Okay, completed. Taking us to 7B, applications for review and examination. I'll entertain a motion regarding Dr. Ueda's application. I think we decided that we would be needing confirmation from Cal Southern regarding the internship. we have a couple of issues related to a couple of courses meeting the requirements under the training protocol. And we need to know about the practicum experience and whether or not it meets the requirements of training programs more broadly that prepare students for licensure. Whether those practicum experiences were approved, and we're going to be requesting more information from her. So the motion is to defer her application for more information. Do I have a motion? Thank you.
Second.
Motion by Dr. Kushi-Sara, seconded by Dr. Scanlon. All those in favor of that motion to defer for more information? Any in opposition or any abstentions? Okay. Lastly, we have a motion to approve the examination waiver applications of Dr. Gorgorian and Dr. Lee, as well as the application of senior psychologist Dr. Carl. Motion to approve these applications. All right, second.
Second.
Thank you, doctor. All those in favor of approving those applications? The three psychologists? Any opposition or abstentions? Okay, thank you all.
Oh, it seems like we've got.
You have a hand raised.
I
I have a hand raised. Okay, Dr. Ueda. Thank you for joining us. Please, you can unmute yourself and come on board and give us some scoops.
Yes, hi. Sorry, I was waiting for 3 hours. I was like, oh my God, they're gonna
Oh my
pass me
gosh.
over. I couldn't unmute. I'm so sorry. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I submitted some information. I know it's probably too late to review it for you folks. Because Cal Southern, it says it on my intern that I completed the internship. But I know that their requirements are a lot less than Hawaii's. So I requested for them to send me the hours I completed because I completed more than Cal Southern's requirement for my pre-doctoral hours. So that is coming, and I know I have to turn that in. I think there were some questions about my what is that called? The postdoctoral hours as well, because I had the same practica, a pre-doctoral and postdoctoral supervisor. But I think because I was doing it under private practice, I think that was, I'm not sure if maybe the board can kind of help me clarify what that was. I did submit a letter addressing those issues regarding my hours that I received after postdoctoral, because it was under my private practice. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. So in my affidavit, I think it said the scope of marriage and family, but that was because I was working under my license. But all of the stuff that I was getting supervision on was with a licensed psychologist, with doing the assessments and doing all of that I was supposed to be doing for hours. So I wasn't sure if there was maybe there was some wording in I wasn't sure if that's what was flagged. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Just for confirmation, thank you for submitting the materials you did submit. We did receive them. At this point, we as a board are going to provide you with a formal response, I guess not a formal response, but a letter in response to your materials. And it will identify any additional questions we have for you. And that letter is forthcoming.
Okay. So there's nothing that I can clarify or.
I can hi, this is Christopher Fernandez, Executive Officer.
Oh, thank you for
I Hi, I can continue talking with you after the letter's issued, yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So thank you for hanging in there for 3 hours. That's pretty awesome.
All right, thank you.
Just
We have one more question.
one more
Yes,
quick question,
yes.
yes. Can you, just for the Cal Southern degree, can you specify like what side D is it? Was it the CS or the C? Don't you have?
Humanistic or whatever it is.
No, I'm just looking off of the website. There's two different training routes, a CS and a CD or something.
I bel I don't remember actually. I didn't know there was two.
It's just two, yeah, there's two different curricula, so that's what I was a little confused on
Oh.
what.
I can ask them to give me the exact course description.
Yes, so there's a CS, PsyD CS and a PsyD CP.
I don't
Yeah.
remember. It's I'm sorry.
Okay, cool.
I-
Maybe in your next response, then you can put that in there just so we know.
Okay, I will. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Anything else we have to do about that? I think we're done. Next meeting is, that's something we need to discuss. The next item on the agenda is when the next meeting will occur, and I think Christopher has something he wanted to share.
I was gonna ask or request that the board change its next meeting to September 4th. As opposed to October 2nd.
I'm gonna go.
I'm okay with that too.
Dr. Takeda?
I'm okay with that.
So the next meeting will be September 4th, 2026. And if there's nothing further, we are adjourned. Or do I have to ask for anything? We can just adjourn the meeting. Thanks for everybody for staying late. Thank you.